Hi, I'm Roberto Martinez and you're watching Toffee TV.
Welcome to Toffee TV with me, Ped. I'm joined by Matt Jones and Allan Williams for this week's show. We're going to be talking everything about Everton 2, Watford 2. It is the final word, as it says right there. Let's just get straight into it, gents, if we may. We come into the season, Matt. We were last week. We were a little bit down by the whole thing. But those two contracts, James McCarthy signing his new contract, Kevin Morales signing his new contract today, that give you an automatic feeling of joy and upward mobility.
It was a good to see them commit in the future. You know, you're not going to complain about players signing on for long-term deals, but I think at this time of the season, and well, it was something that became evident quite quickly on Saturday, we all want to see new faces coming in as well to complement, you know, getting these players in, building a core going forward. And it was evident on Saturday that things quickly became stale, and you know, I'm sure we'll get into it a bit more later. But yeah, on the contract, positive news. Yeah. I think, especially McCarthy, I think we were all a little bit worried about where he might go, and it's a big season for him. He's got to step up his game up, contribute more goals, and become a much more rounded midfield player. Yeah.
Just got to kick on now. I think with McCarthy, especially as you say, it's a big deal for him at his age, 24 years of age. I think Morales was the more surprising one for me. Yeah, I didn't think we'd have kept him this summer. Do you think that reeks of lack of interest? I think lack of interest. Yeah.
It does feel like that because, you know, when you were listening to him last season, he somewhat Champions League teams and wanting to move up with his career, and it did feel like he was putting the vibes. So Everton also come out and said that, you know, they'd offered him a contract. They very much put it back in his court. It does feel like they just haven't come in for him, who he thought would come in for him. But I also put that down to the fact that he's just not a very consistent footballer. So, you know...
Yeah. He can be very frustrated at times, can't he?
Yeah,
he can be very... But on his day, he's a match winner, so...
Yeah, definitely. Now, I mean, you go from one extreme to another. If you're in certain circles, that is, if you're on Twitter on Friday night and the Baines rumours start flying about, then suddenly becomes good old Everton, doesn't it? It becomes doom and gloom before the season starts. And we get to 2 o'clock on Saturday, and it's confirmed that Leighton Baines is out. After the game, you know, it sounds even worse. Roberto Martinez is saying it's not going to be 2 or 3 weeks, and maybe the original rumour of around 3 months might be true.
Well, yeah, it's a big blow for us. I still think he's probably one of our biggest attacking threats in the team, and I think we've seen at the weekend, even though Galloway I thought had quite a good game, he was solid and dependable. When we had the natural left back on the pitch in Brian Oviedo, we looked a lot more dangerous. And I think in that type of game against Watford, where they sit deep in the compact, the players we had on the field with Cleverley and Morales, who both naturally like to drift in and make the pitch compact, that's the type of game that Baines excels in really at times, and we did really miss him. I think last season he was 9 assists, our most creative player, and you know, naturally he's going to be a big blow if he's out for 3 months.
It's a worry that, I mean, from my point of view, I think we were talking about it last week, saying that for me, I think actually Baines shouldn't be playing left back anymore. I think he should be played further up the pitch. That's how much he offers now.
Yeah.
And to see him missing on Saturday, I've never known a football team to rely on a defender so much for its attacking threat. It's incredible. And I think, you know, you're right, Matt. I think we did miss him on Saturday.
I think that linked with the Pienaar miss as well, I think in front of him, because you just see that left-hand side 2 years ago. So threatening, and you look at the left-hand side now. This is maybe part of the problem why we go sideways so often, is because we just don't have that confidence in maybe what we've got out there at the moment. It's
a lot more direct, I think, when we use, especially when we go down the wings. I mean, you go back to Roberto Martinez's first season, you know, Coleman and Baines, how much we relied on that, and how much we've stopped using them as like the major threat. It's so weird, you know. You're saying here about going sideways. A lot of that directness seems to have gone out of our game.
Well, yeah, it's. I think teams kind of clocked onto it a little bit last season. They tried to press the full-backs back, didn't they? And it robs us of our natural width, like I just said. And when you've got a player in the team who can contribute 10 assists a season, and regardless of where he's playing on the pitch, if he's not there, he's going to be a big miss. And even though his corners are much maligned and people do have a go at him, he is a quality set-piece deliverer as well. And without him in the team, it takes away from that side of our game as well. So yeah, big loss, but you know, it's a chance for Brian Oviedo to step up into the team now. I think he did quite well on Saturday when he came on, looked quite tricky on the ball, looked sharp, and again, even though Galloway played quite well, I like to see Oviedo given a chance there going forward.
Yeah. My only worry is just going the other way, maybe, with Oviedo, in terms of going back towards his own goal.
Yeah, I mean, before we get more into it, I think Galloway, what he offers you is that we've seen him a couple of times. I mean, on Saturday, last-ditch tackles and putting his foot in, that kind of pace. I don't know if Oviedo's is switched on, which really, when you think about it, one's a kid, but I think Galloway is naturally a defender, whereas Oviedo's more of an attacking threat. So I suppose it depends what you want out of it. I mean, obviously the starting team, very much like last season. Obviously Galloway at left back and Cleverley in the side as well. But it was very much like last season. That's how the game started. And that was sort of one of the big annoyances, wasn't it? It felt very much like the first half, like last season. And fans turn up at games, and first game of the season, you sort of get that first game season buzz. It was there. It was a nice sunny day. Everyone's got their new kits on, all these little things. When you go on the pitch, and we only had Cleverley as a new player, and then the style was exactly the same that people had come to get used to last season, and that, for me, automatically sort of sapped the crowd of something. It felt like last season, and that to me just was one of the biggest problems from Saturday. Yeah,
it didn't take long for the angst to start. Yeah. As soon as a couple of passes went astray and we were knocking it around the back, the crowd quickly got on the players back. But in one respect, I do get frustrated with that, and I personally wouldn't boo, but I can understand people who do. It's dependent on your own personal preference. But when things are like you said, you come to the game and you've got a renewed hope and everything's fresh, and you think, right, we're going to go again now. It's a clean slate, and you see the same mistakes being made. You see the same personnel. You see, it just quickly gets very frustrating, and I was frustrated at times as well, and I can see why people got angry about it, really.
Yeah, again, I don't want to criticise anyone for doing anything they want to do at the match, but there's a fine line, and I think we may be starting to creep over that fine line as fans. I'm not here to judge anyone else. People pay the money if they want to boo or they want to say things, but I think we are slowly creeping over that fine line where there is a level of frustration where people will come out and boo and say what their feelings, but now it almost feels like it's automatic, like it's there, like people are waiting for someone to make a mistake so they can just boo, whereas we're supposed to be there to support, and that's with a home support.
At the detriment of our own players, though, isn't it? At times as well. You look at the players on Saturday, they just look very nervous with everything they do, in terms of they know if they're going to go back, that it's going to get people on the back straight away. So the players just look very, very nervy. Look like Everton from March. Not much had kind of changed, very slow and laboured, and I think that something in the style's got to change a little bit in terms to get the fans back on side.
I think we've seen the way we need to be playing going forward,
definitely, and I'll come on to that in a moment, but the first half, I think that's one of the big problems was we're still playing that slow tempo. I mean, one player I want to focus on, and it's not because of his ability, but Gareth Barry. Do we really need Gareth Barry in the side against teams like Watford at home, when all the emphasis surely is about attacking? And we've seen what happened second half. Do we really need a player like that in the team who's going to slow things down? He did misplace a lot of passes. I'm not here to criticise him for that. But just simply, do we need two holding players when we've got Ross Barkley, when we've got Cleverley in the side now? Obviously, James McCarthy just signed that contract. Do we really need a player like him now inside?
No, I don't think so. Is the short answer. I think we talked about Baines being one of our main attacking threats, but I think we'd all agree the main attacking threats in our team are Romelu Lukaku and Ross Barkley, and I don't think that team and the system we played on Saturday suits either of them. I think Lukaku and Barkley, they're both players that need the pitch to open up in front of them, and I think in order to get Lukaku in those positions where he's running at defenders, he needs support up front with him, and I think in order to get Barkley in those positions, as we've seen with his goal, he needs to be playing a little bit deeper where he can pick the ball up and drive forward at the opposition, because I think the word Martinez has used in the past is claustrophobic when he plays as a number 10. He gets crowded out of games. He's not really got that visionary trait to see tight passes. And he does get crowded out, even though I thought he had quite a good game there on Saturday. But I think against a team like Watford, they're playing two holding midfielders. They were sitting deep. Easily could withdraw Gareth Barry and give Ross a bit more responsibility. Yeah. He could easily relish it.
Yeah. I think Watford did a great job. They just said, break us down, and we can't. We just don't have that ability at the moment to be able to do that. And I think touching on Lukaku and Barkley in terms of when we do play to Rom, there's nobody around him. We play balls
Yeah.
into him, and just because he's 6 foot,
Yeah.
I expect him to bring it down and then do something every time with it. And it's unfortunate it's not going to happen that way.
Yeah.
I think we need to adapt what we do and maybe add a little bit to our own game.
It's a good point you make about Romelu Lukaku, actually, because I think a lot of people, and now he's coming into his 3rd season ever now, and people still think he's this sort of battering ram of a centre forward, and he's never ever going to be that kind of centre forward. I don't think he's, he's a lad who likes the ball at his feet, and as you just mentioned, the size, it's almost, it goes against him in a way, because you want him to be this player that he's not. I mean, his hold-up play is pretty terrible, to be fair. And he does generally feel like he always needs someone around him. And I don't understand why Roberto Martinez hasn't clocked onto this, because everything seems to go against the system that he wants to force on this team. I don't think the players suit it, for a start. Like you just mentioned there, midfield-wise, we've got 5 in midfield, and it becomes just a big area of 10 men all the time, which goes against us. Ross doesn't get any space. Rom gets isolated. We don't have any width. It just doesn't seem to. The system just doesn't seem to suit the players we've got.
I think Graham Souness made a good point yesterday when he was talking about Arsenal, and they obviously try and play a similar style to us, but a lot better.
Yeah.
And he said it's such a hard way of playing the game compared to getting it wide and playing direct. It's much more meticulous. It's much more difficult to execute properly. And he said all it needs is a couple of phases of that team or a couple of little facets to break down, and that's it. It's so hard to do. And like I just mentioned, we've got a couple of players there who are playing in positions which aren't getting the best out of them. And it's that old cliche, it's square pegs in round holes. And going forward, he needs to do something different. And I think we've seen, touching on Lukaku, when Kone was on the pitch, all right, he did well, but I don't think any of us would say he's the long-term solution. But just having that extra presence there and having Lukaku being able to isolate defenders one-on-one, that second goal was a perfect example to it. He used his physicality up against the defender, laid it off, and it was a goal. And I think when it comes to Rom, he's been trying to play him as a lone striker for a while now, and I've always thought, I've been of the opinion that he is young, and I don't want us to go too direct to him and change the way he plays too much, because I think he can still learn about hold-up play. He can still learn how to be a lone striker, but the more it goes on, I think that kind of touch and that kind of intellect is something you're either going to have now, or he's just never going to have it at all. I think if we are going to get the best out of him going forward, we might need to change the way we play a little bit.
It's that adaptation for me, in terms of we play a certain way and don't have a plan B. And teams like Watford have sussed it out. They just press us high up the pitch and say, break us down. And with Romy, for me, looks better with somebody with him, because we play a ball into him and the nearest person to him could be 10-15 yards away. And there's an expectation on him.
Well, the scary thing was, first half, we did try and go long to him quite a few times, but he can't hold the ball up, so it just comes back. And the other thing is, Watford, I just thought, for a team that just come up and had 6 players who just signed permanently, they looked like they were an outfit that knew what they were doing. And I just think that when you watch Everton, you watch a team that is trying its best to play a certain way, but just will never be able to play that way, because I just don't think the players are good enough to fit into the Martinez this ideal. Because that's all it is, isn't it? It's his ideological sort of Barcelona sort of. He's got a vision in his head of how he wants to play, and I just don't think it's ever going to come off when you've got players that are Everton level.
I think the team's fractures components at the moment. I think in that first season when Gareth Barry came in and he was at his best and he had a really good season, he was linking the defence and the midfield very well. But now, because of the way that the crowd are getting on his back and the passing side to side, and he's a bit more reluctant to do that. He's not showing for the ball as much.
But also, you say that, and we come back, teams sussed us out.
Yeah, exactly. But what I was going to go and say is I think we're missing link players now, whereas in that first season we had Barry, who would link the defence to the midfield really well. And then on the left-hand side in their first season, we had Pinar as well, who would link the midfield and the attack really well, and Baines and other aspects of the play. And I think that's something we're missing at the moment. We look like defence, midfield, attack. It's really rigid, and when you're adding the players who aren't getting utilised to the best of their ability, it does become static and it does become boring. And we play ourselves into trouble because we move the ball too slow. There's no movement. It gets channeled in the middle of the pitch, and it just all gets very stagnant very quickly.
Tempo is a massive thing, isn't it? You've seen that second half. We came out second half, and suddenly there was a bit of tempo to the team, and it didn't have to be, you know, pass. It was passing in the right areas. We were getting down the flanks, and we were moving the ball with pace. So we were shifting them from left to right really quickly. And we were talking about Kone. You introduce Kone, you suddenly have that extra body in there. Okay, he's not the best player in the world. We slacked him to bits last week and said he was finished. Made us look like idiots. But I don't mind. I really don't mind that. I don't mind the golden-headed one doing that to us. I don't mind anyone making look like stupid. But the fact that he came on and Romelu Lukaku suddenly looked better. I mean, his little touch for the goal was lovely. You don't expect that kind of. Barkley had a little bit more about him. Seamus Coleman suddenly started finding room on the right. And you just think, why can't we start getting... How many times do we sit here, every time you were on the guest, me and Barry were here last week, we said, why can't we start games with pace? Go at teams from the start. And it makes such a difference. You can put teams on the rack. And I think that's when Goodison Park finds its feet. If the fans find the voice, when there's that tempo. That's what, growing up as an Evertonian, I've been used to. Teams with a bit of tempo and getting that's all we want.
There's nothing wrong with the philosophy of wanting to get the ball and play football, but there's times where you've got to change that and you've got to adapt to it. People talk about Barcelona and they do it, but the thing that people forget is Barcelona do it at pace. It's not very slow
with the best player in the world.
We go side to side. And touching on the point before about the square pegs and round holes, I felt sorry for somebody like Cleverley on Saturday. We're asking him to play left wing, right wing, and then we're asking him to be a number 10, and then we're asking him to link the play, and I just felt a bit...
Well, I thought Cleverley had a good game. I thought he had a good game, and I think, he was asked to occupy that sort of left end the midfield. Much maligned last year. Naismith played there, Ross Barkley played there, and what I could see was when Baines is playing left back, if he ever play left back again, that'll definitely work. That combination will work. I mean, we were talking about last week, I'm saying Cleverley might just be the wall pass, just like the give and go for Baines. There was loads of really nice touches on Saturday. A couple of times he, did a couple of little back touches, and just his awareness was good. I thought I was pretty happy with the way he played, and I turned around to my brother-in-law and said, I forgot Cleverley was playing, but actually that might be a good thing that I sort of, he's come in and got in there and got on with his job, and okay, it mightn't have been revolutionary, but I think that's a really good thing. But
you don't think that's a bad thing as well, that he's just settled into this team straight away and he looks the same as a lot of the other players we've got at the moment?
What it tells me is he's not a number 10. No. He's not anyone who's going to split teams with his passes. But I think when Baines comes in the team, I think you will see a lot more of him. I don't think he was helped by the fact that Galloway didn't want to go past him. I thought Galloway had a decent game, but going forward, he's not really going to offer anything. I think when he gets a player like Baines, and I think with Oviedo, it worked with Oviedo, if he's got someone like Oviedo, and I think he's got the intelligence to know when to get back as well, almost like Barry was a couple of years ago. So I think that worked. So I think, as you mentioned before, if you've got him in there, and you give Ross Barkley that extra responsibility, then I think it could work. I think going forward that'll work.
My honest opinion is that I don't think there's much wrong. I really don't. I just think that the small tweaks that we need to make in terms of the way we move the ball, we've talked about things. I don't think it's anything revolutionary that needs to change. I just think it's very small tweaks, but sometimes there is a bit of a reluctance there to change it. Do we have that reluctance?
There's a stubbornness, isn't there, in the manager? There's clearly a stubbornness. And I think that's what got people down at the beginning of the game, that they felt like nothing had moved on, so it was going to be the same old. But I think the second half definitely showed that he probably feels like he's going to have to. He's got maybe he'll introduce it off the bench, sort of this change if he needs to change games. But I think what fans want is a progression where it's going to happen in games from the start to win games.
It's worrying though, because I think our best performances under him have always come when we're playing a direct style of football. I think if you look at the Arsenal game last season, Wolfsburg away, Dynamo Kiev, the young boys away. We were going forward with pace, and we just don't do that. I know it's hard sometimes when a team comes and they do bunker in and make it tough for you, but if you get Barkley deeper, if you get someone alongside Lukaku, it's doable, and that's when we've played our best football under the manager, and it is a little bit worrying that he doesn't seem to have learned his lesson in that respect.
It's interesting on Barkley because Martinez loves him. Like, he raves about him like he's the best player in the world. He actually said to me he was the best player in the world. That's what he feels. That's what he feels. But then you watch him in the first half and you think, well, why are you shackling him? Why are you stopping this kid with all this potential from going where he needs to go? you know, I said last week on the show, I want him to be the player of the year this season. I want him to rise above. I want him to be the kid that comes out of it. And you watch his development in the last 2 years, and you watch John Stones' development, and John Stones is leaving him behind, because John Stones can go and play his natural game in his own position, and Martinez allows that. But it feels like he's stopping Barkley from doing what he wants to do. Where his second half on Saturday, I felt like you got what you got. Barkley, playground footballer. Feels like this has got to be his year, and I think if he continues like he did second half, then that's where you're going to get the best out of him.
I think the worry for me with Ross is, what is his position? Where is he best? Because I don't think we've seen him nail down a position to say, I am a number 8 that's going to drive forward, I am a number 10 that's going to link the play. And I think that's why he was shoved out wide last season. We're kind of accommodating the talent that is clearly there. But where are we going to get the best? We're going to see the best Ross Barkley at Everton.
I think the manager's got to decide that, hasn't he, and just say, I'm going to play it here for the run of games now. You're not going to be moved. Might be a few players moved around you, but you're going to play either in the number 10 position or you're going to play deeper. And I'm going to build a team around you, because last year he came back into the side in that game against Villa, and he was outstanding, wasn't he? He's probably his best performance of the season. But following on from that, he was put on the left, he was put on the right, played deeper against QPR and was really good again, and then he was moved around the team afterwards.
I think he's got to declutter that midfield as well, though. It feels like it's just too. It feels like it's too busy. There's too much going on, and it's at the detriment to Ross Barkley and Romelu Lukaku, because Romelu Lukaku's finding stuff isolated all the time. As you said, you know, he wants this number 10. You know, whoever this number 10 is, he wants him to be that split striker to link the play, like you were saying before, someone who can link the play. He hasn't got him yet, so I'm not saying Ross Barkley's the answer, but maybe changing the formation is the answer for the time being. It mightn't be what he wants to do going forward, but sometimes you can't always do what you want to do in football. If you haven't got the players to play a certain way, you've got to use the players you've got to play that way.
I mean, people will be worried about Ross going and playing deeper because of the defensive side of the game, and I'm sure we're going to come on to the defending in a minute at the weekend, but you've got to give him the responsibility sometime and say, you're going to be our main man in there, and you never know, he might take it on, he might be brilliant in there. And if you look at his best performance last season, it was against Villa and against QPR, and he was deeper in the team, and he was getting the ball, and he was driving us forward, and I think that has got to be where he's got to play moving forward, personally.
Definitely, I think
the thing for me with him is you've got to let him play. Let him play. Let him make mistakes, let him play, and just let the boy do what he's clearly got in his locker. Yeah,
he's a talent, isn't he? You know, we've said this but it does feel like he's a schoolyard kind of kid, and I'm not saying he needs a free role, although at times I do feel like he should just be allowed to do what he wants, but, you know, maybe just putting the extra responsibility on him. But I think the most important thing is just make space for him. He needs that space to get round the park. I mean, just mentioned their defending. I can't really do a show without talking about how terrible it was. You know, it's interesting, you know, Chelsea get rumoured to be coming back in for John Stones. Now, the first thing I thought first half was, John Stones is going to go, because he's just going to be watching us play and go, why am I staying? Why would I stay here? But then as it went on, I just thought, John, they mightn't even ring back now, because the defending for the second goal especially was just, I mean, the word schoolboy gets thrown around, but that really was amateurish. To be taken one way and slide, and then, you know, to be taken the other way and the lad scores, is just...
It was a comedy of errors, wasn't it? I think he got sold so easily. You know, it's a left foot shot. I think the lad there is always going to be looking to come inside on his right foot, isn't he, and hit the shot there, and then Jagielka panics once Stones is beating him and comes sliding in, and then, you know, the goalkeeper's positioning is just absolutely atrocious.
I think we're all very clear on Tim Howard. The manager seems to have different ideas. I think if we wanted to do specials on Tim Howard, we could, but I just think it's redundant. Because it's not going to happen, is it?
Nothing's going to change.
Nothing's going to change. We could sit here every week and moan about Tim Howard. We did that a lot last season, and to the point we'd lose all our American views as well. We need them. Tim Howard's Tim Howard. I don't think there's going to be much change. But the defending it leaves a lot to be be
I think we always struggle when there's a big man up top as well.
Like Dean, physicality.
I think we always we look petrified of what they're going to do to us.
Yeah.
And I think that then feeds through.
Yeah.
And Howard, Jagielka, Stone, whichever the combination is, I think that confidence just seems...
It's weird because we have 5 midfield, we have 2 to protect, and yet the first goal they scored was simply by a midfielder getting the wrong side, well, the right side for him, of those two holding midfielders, and you're just thinking, well, what's the point? He doesn't offer anything going forward, it doesn't offer anything coming back. Well, again, we could do a series on set pieces.
It nearly happened again at the end of the first half. I think it was that Gerardo had a shot from the edge of the box. It got cleared, and there was no midfielder picking up the second ball, and it just went wide of the post. And like you said, if you've got two holding midfield players in there, that's their job. That's their main job to pick up those loose balls and to stop shots from the edge of the box like that. So if we're gonna have two players in there and neither of them are doing the job, may as well just have one.
I think there's that. I know a lot of people slag a lot of players off. There's not much you can do about the players, but you've just got to have a system that suits them. And I think how we finish the game is maybe how we need to set up for more. I'm not saying it's the answer. I'm just saying maybe that's more how we need to set up for games. I think it seems to make more sense. Definitely, yeah. I think we could sit here all day just moaning about this game, but it's another 2-2 draw, third in a row, opening game of the season. I think that says a lot about Roberto Martinez, doesn't it? When you play teams and you draw 2-2 with them, I think that says a lot. We've had a lot of 2-2 draws in the last 2-3 seasons. So yeah. So I think there's a lot from that.
We just need new faces. I think it's just, it's people are saying, oh, don't go sign people for the sake of it, but everything about that performance on Saturday was so stale, and if it wasn't for an injury to Baines, it would have been 10 players who could have been fielded in his first season at the end of the transfer window. And people get sick of seeing the same faces and the same football, and just a couple of new faces, and I think you'll gradually see a mood change around the place, and the players as well. They're probably getting a bit sick of each other by this point. And if you get someone new in there, trying new things, lifting the crowd, I think it will make a really big difference going forward.
And the introduction of new faces just boosts in many different areas, doesn't it? As you say, the players, the fans, I think it just takes a little bit of the weight off and gives us that extra option as well.
Definitely, I think the players just want to play away from home now, don't they? Simple as that. That's the way it's going. We're getting there anyway. Right. Anyway, listen. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, leave your comments down below, down here. Subscribe on the button up there as well. Big thanks to Al. Big thanks to Matt. We'll be back later on this week. Looking forward to the game against Southampton. We'll see you then.